They say that 13 is unlucky for some, and since Rapido's J13 has just landed with us this week, it's going to be nice to compare it to the Hornby one, which has been with us for quite a few months. There are some differences between the two models. Some of these may be make or break for a modeler depending on what they want to do with regards to DCC and sound fitting. So let's get into it and see which of the J13s is the unlucky one. So a while back now, Rapido announced they were going to do the J52/the J13, along with another manufacturer who also decided they were going to do the J13 and J52 as well. Now that particular manufacturer's offering came to market before Rapido's did, but as you can see, their version has now landed. And we're going to take a look at it today. And a little bit later on in the video, we might even do a direct comparison with that other brand. Now, must state, out of the box, Rapido have not sent me this. This is from a colleague at work, so thank you to that person. Very kind of you to lend me your model to play with. Now, from my own admission, I am not a steam guy, as it were. I like steam engines, of course I do. Everyone likes steam engines to some degree. But I'm not an expert on the matter. But the chaps at Rapido certainly are. They are self-proclaimed, shall we say, aficionados of the steam genre. Andrew Hardy is a fully signed off driver, fireman, and all around nice steam engine driving kind of guy. So you think that these chaps would be the ones to go for if you want a little tank engine, right? Cool. Let's waste no more time and get straight into it. Let's get it on the line side. Okay, boys and girls, here we have it, the nice little J13/J52 on the line side. First impressions, it is a really nice looking bit of kit, but we've come to sort of expect this from the chaps at Rapido now. They're not in the habit of doing things by half. All the detail that you expect to see is there. All the separate bits and pieces like the handrails, chimney, dome, whistles, pipework, everything is attached and fitted nicely. Nothing's come off with my bare meat hooks handling it, which is always a good thing. Steps are applied nicely, you know, a little bit of movement there, but I think that's down just to how they've been designed. I don't think that's in any real danger of sort of coming off, but I'm sure a little bit of glue would possibly make that a little bit more robust, but whatever. Very minor thing. Tiny glue mark on here, look, you've got a little bit of a glue mark on there where this step has been attached to the body, but that's minor. And in some lights, the paint on the wheels does kind of look a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Flaky, sketchy, kind of, maybe in certain lights. But again, from the 2 foot rule, this is fine. And it looks like a J13. Cool, okay. In a minute, I'm going to pick it up and have a good rummage around the damn thing, so we can have a look at all the detail a little bit closer up. But initially, as always, the line side view is the most important. And we're going to have a look later on at how this thing runs, and of course, the DCC sound functions.
Welcome to Sawyer Models of Lee, your stop for model railway items, locomotives and more. With an absolutely fantastic range of locomotives in O gauge, double O, N, TT and more, you are sure to find the perfect locomotive to fit your budget. Ordering simple, you can either order on his website, go to the shop, pick up the phone, or see him at one of the many trade shows they attend throughout the season. With one of the biggest trade stalls you will ever see at a model railway show. Thanks for your support, boys and girls.
Where we are then on the wacky workbench, so we can really have a look at this thing in a little bit more detail and see what you're getting for your pennies. Now looking at this thing front on, we can see that all the lining is nicely done. The detailing on the printwork is fine again. I don't think Rapido have ever really had an issue with this. The buffers are nice and we've got a good bit of spring from them. Quite easy to press these, which is nice. So if you run 3 links like I do, pretty cool. I will let out that Rapido do give you a little detail bag in the pack, but they don't fit any of it for you, so you've got to fit your own hooks. But you do get a choice of whether you want to use screw links, 3 links, or just the hook and then put your own thing on there. That part, of course, is already fitted. It's quite a big thing to leave out. The irons are actually really nicely fitted, and an interesting thing to note is if you have a lamp from another J13 model, they do actually just slide on there rather nicely. Although I will say that Rapido have chosen not to include a pack of lamps for you to pop onto their J13. So there we are. Just look at the back there, one of those lamp irons does just seem like it's bent a little bit further back towards the body there. Let's compare it to the other side. Yeah, it's about the same, so it's not too bad. Just really wary of these steps. They really are quite delicate. I mean, it's a piece of plastic hanging off a thin piece of plastic, so it's going to be delicate. I don't think Rapido could really be blamed for that. It is just the nature of the beast, really. We wanted fine details. We've got fine details, but you need to be careful when handling them. Coming along the roof here, all the little details are applied finally. The handrails are sturdy. The filler cap is sturdy, and of course, well detailed. The dome looks to be a separately fitted part. I'm not sure if the spacing on the gap is a little bit too extraneous there, but again, a bit of weathering would hide that. I think if it did bother you, it doesn't really bother me, and again, from viewing distance, you can't really tell. Whistle is nicely applied and has got a little bit of movement to it, but it doesn't look like it's any danger of coming off. This handrail is super fine and it's on there nice and steady. This, I think it's brake rigging or detailing, whatever this is here, is wiggling around a little bit. And when I'm handling the model, it does kind of feel like it wants to come off. But again, like I said previously, very delicate. So just try not to finger your model unnecessarily if you can. Around the arse end, we've got these lovely portholes, and the guards on the portholes there do seem to be separately fitted pieces. They do seem to be separately fitted pieces, which is always nice and does give a really good finish and a nice impression of what's going on there. But again, it's a tank engine, basically. I mean, there's not a great deal else to point out on it. All the little bits and pieces you expect to be there are nice. There's a little splash of glue that you can see there, which is annoying when the light catches it, but again, weathering would hide that and you would never even see that ever again. Printing quality is superb. They've even picked out the detailing on the rivets on the boiler there, sorry, on the smoke box, which again is seemingly missing from other representations from other manufacturers' models. So it is interesting to see that Rapido haven't skipped out on that. And it does go to show that these chaps really do pay attention to those kind of little details. Cool. Right, let's have a look inside the cab, shall we? Now for this, I'm just going to overlay some close-up footage or some pictures of inside the cab because the camera doesn't really want to play in this lighting, but the back head detail is properly well done. Everything is in there. The controls are superbly picked out. Even the gauges have got little marcations on them, and you're never ever going to see it unless you're at a really obtuse angle. But it is nice that it's there, and kind of just knowing it's there, I suppose, is part of the joy of owning a model like this. I've always said that if you can't see the detail from operating distances, then it's kind of mute. But I suppose when this is going around your light at the right angle, your eye will just catch it, and that is super important. So I suppose I'd say that if you can't see it at all during operation, then it doesn't need to be there. Questionable. But if you can see it sometimes, I think it's important that it's there, because it'd be so easy just to leave it out thinking, well, you can't see it 90% of the time, so why bother? But no, Rapido have beautifully decorated the back of this. Cab door is fixed, by the way, guys, so fitting a driver and crew might be a little bit more difficult than anticipated, but I'm sure with a little bit of acrobatics you could just squeeze a driver in there. And I'm perfectly confident the chaps at Model U would make a driver for this, and it'd be splendid as well. Jolly good. All this part work at the side there is really nicely picked out, finely detailed, and again, sturdy. That's the key word here. They've got the fine detail, and even though it does move a little bit in certain places, like on the steps there, it isn't immediately giving the impression that it's going to fall off in my hand. So they haven't skimped out on the glue, clearly, but it is nice. Even the smoke box rail, the guide rails here, they're all really well picked out. So it's nice to see this. Cool. Let's get on the layout, have a look at how she runs, and play with those sound functions, shall we? Here we are, boys and girls. We are set up back on the line side again, and we're going to activate the sound function. So of course, as with most things, it's function 1 to turn on the sound. There we are. And one thing that I will say is that the sound recording on this is very, very crisp. I know it's probably only like a Sugar Cube speaker, but it's quite clearly had a little bit of thought put into it, because the whistle does sound rather crisp. Just give this a listen if we can. And that is, of course, the playable whistle. So the interesting thing about the playable whistle is when you activate function 3, the intro and outro of the whistle tend to be a bit different. So you get like a double blast, and then it's extended, and then like a double blast to flurry it off with. That's really cool. Number 4 is just a short blast of a whistle. Number 5, what we've got going on here, we've got a kinky whistle from the platform chap. And when you deactivate it, you get the driver's reply, which is nice for dispatching trains on a, for example, like I would on a heritage railway. That's really cool to see. And then, of course, the further up the sound functions you go, as usual with most steam engine sound projects, it's just various different sounds of water and steam doing water and steam things. So that's really cool. Let's say the thing chuffing away, shall we? We're going to get it to couple up to a little Rapido train we've got waiting just out of shot there. It's almost like I've planned this, although I assure you I am absolutely making this up on the fly. So let's give a little blast of that whistle, shall we? Speed state 1. Not bad. This is out of the box, by the way. I don't think this thing's had a proper running in yet, but it does move fairly slowly for speed state 1. I mean, realistically, are you going to need it to go any slower than that? From a practicality sense, I'd probably say not. Let's see how well it couples up to its Rapido vans over there. Let's bump that speed step up a little bit. That's now speed step 10. So she's geared nice and low. Speed step 20. There we are. Bit of a judder there. Speed step 30. A little bit notchy. Interesting. As I say, it probably wants a running in because this hasn't been bedding yet at all. So we'll have to see how she runs in with a full bedding in. Let's get a reversing, shall we? Yeah, quite a lot of notchiness there. Hopefully that improves. So that's on speed step 10 there, as you can see. Not as smooth as one would like for a model of this calibre out of the box. But we'll, again, at the risk of repeating myself, we'll have to see how smooth it is once it's had a chance to run in. I expect that this notchiness will disappear. The sound project does sound really nice for what it is, although that loco really is a little bit jittery and juttery. So I'm hoping that things improve with a little bit of running in there. Hopefully over time they will do. Now, what I do really like about this model is that Rapido have decided to follow in the steps of their contemporaries and started fitting stay alives as standard to their smaller models. Not sure about the bigger models, but this really is something that should be done as standard now, I think. Fitting a stay alive to a model, especially a small little O6 sort of this, really does take away some of the stress of operating, especially over point work. Like if yours isn't the best in the world, it does take away from that, is it going to start derailing? Or is it, sorry, not derailing, is it going to start cutting out if I stop it on a dead bit of track, or it doesn't quite make it over a dirty piece of rail or whatever. So it is nice to see that that's on there. So all you would need to do really is bed this locomotive in, run it in, and then if you want to, give it a weathering. There's no need to open it up. And as we saw earlier, when you're handling something as delicate and fragile as these new age models, if you want to call them that, then handling them really isn't their strong point, because at some point some of the detail is going to part ways, and that's when you end up being a little bit upset, angry and frustrated because your £200 model has fallen to bits in your hand. But being smart, thinking out of the box and putting a stay alive in there to begin with and a speaker means that you don't have to open it up, although that really is not the best running. It really doesn't need bedding in, I think. That's what I'd say there. Once it's moving, it's okay, but it does sometimes just stutter a little bit, which is a little bit of a shame. But there we are. Okay, so that's a few initial impressions of the Rapido J13 there. Again, at the risk of repeating myself, this one hasn't been properly run in as per the manufacturer's instructions, which is half an hour in either way. But what I will say is, at least initially, without having done the running in, it does seem a little bit notchy. at lower speeds. But again, I am absolutely confident that will not be the case. That said, now, I said earlier we're going to compare this with another recent release J13, and of course, I'm not here to disappoint, so we are going to have a look at the Hornby J13, which is by no stretch of the imagination a bad model. Let's get it out of the box and have a look, shall we? Right then, out of the box, here we are. We have the Hornby J13, and immediately, one thing I have to mention is that this thing does feel a little bit heavier, not by much, and I'm fairly sure that this version is a later version of this prototype, or vice versa. I'm not sure. So that might be why this version doesn't have rivets on the smoke box. Perhaps it does, perhaps it doesn't. The grab rails though are both really nice. The greedy bars are both excellently applied. The steps are both in about the same place. The Rapido ones are a different size, finer, I dare say, but the Hornby ones, are they moulded? They look moulded. I could be wrong on that. They look moulded. But at the same time, if they're not, then they are incredibly well fitted and there's no extra glue. What I will say is both of them have very nice representations of rods, although the Rapido one does seem to have a slightly finer representation of the rods there. The spokes on the Hornby wheels tend to be looking, at least from my eyes, a little bit finer, but again, this may be because of differences of the chosen prototype model and not necessarily a design or engineering quote-unquote problem as such. It's just a difference I can see before me. Obviously, steps different. Now let's give the Hornby steps a poke. So again, there's a little bit of movement there, but I think that's because these are a bigger step, they're not as fine. This one is very, very, very fine. So it was brave of Rapido to model that. Now, both of these models have a representation of the motion. Of course, neither have working motion. That is, understandable, because in double O it's still quite difficult to do. The buffers on both are sprung, although the Hornby ones do feel like they have a bit more pushback, so that might be better for 3-link couplings. And speaking of 3-link couplings, Hornby do fit the hooks for you, and they are nice, finely made ones as well. And the hooks on them look to be slightly overscale compared to the Rapido ones, which may lend itself to those who wish to use 3-link couplings with the Hornby version. So that's nice. Now both have really good backhead detail on there, both have good firebox flicker, and both have sound. The difference being the Rapido sound, I think, does just edge it because of the nature of how HM7000 works, and it isn't as customizable as the option you would have from Rapido, which would be ESU, and I do like ESU. That's probably more down to personal preference than an actual problem as such, or a fault or whatever, because I don't think it is. The dome on the Hornby one looks to be finished slightly better from what I can see. There's not as much of a noticeable gap around between the boiler and the dome as on the Rapido one. The chimneys both look about the same. Of course, different roofs because, again, a different point in the locomotive's life has been represented here from both Rapido and Hornby. So, again, not a problem, just a difference in prototype. Question is, which is better? So there we have it then. Rapido's J13 and Hornby's J13 side by side. And I think you will agree that certainly from where you guys are looking at this, at a practical viewpoint, there is nothing between them at all. And detail wise, they are both superb renditions of the prototype. And if you want to have a more detailed review of Hornby's version, then do go and check out Jenny Kirk's review she did a couple of months back. It is very detailed, very long. She was quite happy with it, and I've no doubt that when she gets to the Rapido J13, she'll be just as happy as well. Noticeable differences like the riveting detail on the smoke box of both models. It's missing on the Hornby one. I'm not sure if that is because Hornby just missed it out, and it's such a small thing to notice, but once you actually do realise it isn't there, it just sort of draws your attention to it. But again, that may be due to design differences in the upgraded version between the J32 and the J52. Again, I'm not a huge Steam fan. I'm not an expert on Steam details, so if I've got that wrong, I do apologise. I'm not professing to be a Steam genius. Although I will say this, the Hornby version out of the box did run a little bit smoother, but it did need that stay alive fitting. And I think Jen actually mentions that in her video. So the Rapido one's a bit jittery, but again, once it beds in and runs in, I think it'll be nice and smooth. In fact, I might do that and then look at the footage a bit later on and see if it does actually improve the running of it. So I will put that on the rolling road in just a moment, give it 30 minutes, and then we'll whack it on speed step 1 again, see if it does make it any slower, in the interest of fairness. But in the meantime, we're going to thank all the guys that have signed up to the channel membership. Thank you so much, folks. I really do appreciate it. If you want to be a channel member, you can get extra discount from Sawyer Models of Lee, as well as discount on the up and coming Iron Horse Railways product range. So please do send me an email. Details are in the description box if you want to sort that out. And again, guys on the screen now, thank you so much. Cool. Anyway, let's have a look and see if the running in of the Rapido J13 made any difference. So we've given our little Rapido J13 a good half an hour at about speed step 63, which is about half full speed in the forward direction. And I'm going to overlay some footage now just to see if it made any difference to the jerkiness that we saw earlier and the stuttering. Almost tightness in the mechanism, it would seem. But again, this is a common thing with models which are not yet fully bedded in or ran in, so let's have a look. And as you can see, that is a huge improvement. It's still not 100%, but again, I am confident that with a little bit more running in time, and of course, cleaning and what have you, it will be butter smooth, just like any of my other Rapido models are. My Lion and of course my 16-inch Hunslet both run remarkably well. Admittedly, Lion does run better than the Hunslet, but then again, I didn't bounce Lion off the concrete, did I? And you'll be happy to know, boys and girls, that the J13, when you press forward, it goes forward. Ultimately, as always, folks, it comes down to what it is you want from your model as to which one you should go for, the Rapido or the Hornby offering. Both are fine models, and Rapido themselves drew massive attention to the fact that both they and Hornby were doing a GNR locomotive, which is very cool, and it proves that there's plenty of room on the market for more than one manufacturer to do the same model. Pay attention. Price point is pretty much for the DC ready versions, the DC versions, the DC silent versions, the DC ready versions. There's a tenner about a tenner between the Rapido and the Hornby version. The difference comes when you look at the more deluxe versions. So, for example, the sound ready versions. I'm not sure what the sound ready version is for the Hornby, if there is one, but I know that you can upgrade it with a TXS chip, and there is a proper sound file for the J52 on the TXS app, so you can upgrade that. But that brings some issues with it. You're going to have to use the speaker enclosure, you're going to have to build a speaker enclosure, which is fraught with danger because you might stick it together or your hands and knack it up. And you've then got to buy and fit a Stay Alive yourself. Whereas with the Rapido option, all that's done for you. And I think ultimately, for the price difference in what it would cost you to buy a TXS sound decoder, 21-pin version for this, I think, for the Hornby version, and then buy Stay Alive, and then the irreplaceable amount of time it would cost you to take it apart, fit it, and try on run things. Because the Hornby one does need that Stay Alive. It doesn't run so good without it. It really doesn't. It's jerky, juddery. Even after good bedding and cleaning, it does need that Stay Alive. Especially if you're going to utilize the whole Bluetooth connection thing. An SSC or an SAC would be ideal because they just plug straight into it. So if you're going down the Hornby route, Stay Alive is an absolute must. But if you want it to just work out of the box, then as much as I love Hornby, you do need to go for the Rapido version. And even though the Rapido one, yes, is ever so slightly lighter, practically, there's not much in it. I have some scales around here somewhere, but honestly, it's not even worth getting them out because the difference really is so minimal. It won't make any major impact to performance, really. So weight isn't a factor here. Paint finish, glue marks, let's be honest, from here I can't see them. The light does sometimes catch that little glue mark there, which is annoying. But let's face it, once you weather them, you can't see any of that, can you? No, that's another fine addition to Rapido's catalogue. So yes, I would say that the just edging in front there for the finer rod detailing, the extra detail on the smoke box, the finer application of the piping, the lovely sound, the superb sound profile. Working with a sugar cube is never easy, but Rapido pulled it off and it does come across really, really well and sounds lovely. So yeah, I would throw my hat in and say the Rapido one is one to go for. And this really is whetting my appetite for the S160. I saw the decorated samples at the BRM show earlier this month and it was lovely. Didn't get a chance to speak to old Andy about it, but everyone was so busy, that's fine, whatever, cool. I've got one on order. Can't wait to get all of it because I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic addition to the railway. So thanks for watching, guys. Been a pleasure as always. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that other jazz. And if you want one of these, you can grab one from Soy Models Uk. Take care. Bye for now.